All right, so jumping straight into this, what I want to discuss is going to be delayed attribution today. Now, whenever we're scaling, we want to obviously kill very quickly as well. It's kind of like poker, right? Because whenever we're scaling to especially seven-figure months, we're going to have a lot of ad sets that are working, and we're also going to have other ad sets that obviously are not working. And we need to be able to kill them accurately without also wasting money. Because what we need to understand is ROAS economics is a huge aspect of scaling, and attribution is always looked over very heavily. So at the end of the day, data is going to be our best friend when it comes to scaling, right? And oftentimes, whenever we have a bigger collective statistical group, when we're looking at more data we can analyze, it's going to be better, right? The more numbers, basically, the better. All the reports and columns that I even have set up here, like for scaling, it's all set up in a way so I know exactly what I'm looking at. I know I'm looking at link clicks, add to carts, purchases, cost per click. I can see everything in a very linear fashion. I can see how many people we reached, how many of them clicked, how many of them added to cart, what's the CPA, TC, etc. I can see every single metric, so it's very easy for me to make accurate decisions. Okay, now obviously CPATC is a really good metric. Another good metric is called PSM. It means profitable scaling margin. I'm going to go into all these really kind of like advanced, because there's a lot of fucking metrics, a lot of these more advanced metrics later on. But I want to discuss delayed attribution today and just overall conversion windows. So whenever we're looking at delayed attribution, I'm going to open up the whiteboard here. What we need to understand is this, okay? So what is delayed attribution? Very simple. When we're looking here, we have Monday, we have Tuesday, we have Wednesday, we have Thursday, and obviously we have Friday, okay? Now, obviously the rest of the day is a week, but let's say that someone gets hit with one of our ads right here, okay? Now, this person was hit with their ad, and they might not just buy today, okay? It might take them all the way up until Friday before they give us our money, okay? When they do this, Facebook, depending on the conversion windows you pick, will attribute that sale to the ad over here, okay? So as you're scaling, right, we need to understand what this is going to result in. We need to understand that the sales that occur over here on this day, on Friday, can also be attributed to the ads that we launched or ran on Monday. This changes the scaling dynamic by a lot. Now, you guys have to understand the reason this happens, by the way, is just because people that aren't impulse buyers, and impulse buyers make up about 30% of whatever ads are running. People that aren't impulse buyers, they do more research on what the products are, the competitors. They just do more research. They look on Amazon. They do more things, right? And they might end up buying from us later on because of that. So our job, right, during this time frame is we need to be hitting them with more ads, okay? Now, this is going to prevent a lot of that delayed attribution. Why? Because if they're hit with an ad, let's say on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right? On Thursday, they're hit with another ad. They could end up buying here, okay? And that gives that sale and attributes it to the Thursday ad rather than the Monday ad, even though they were hit with the ad here. So this is where frequency comes in, which is a whole different equation. But anyway, so hitting them with multiple creatives is obviously a great way to prevent delayed attribution, but obviously sometimes it's not going to work out. So how does this work, okay? What we need to understand is back in like 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, Facebook used to have something called a 28-day click, I think it was, no, 28-day click and 7-day view conversion window, okay? Now, I'm going to explain what conversion windows are. So the very first thing is we need to understand that people drip by, obviously, right? Now, the first option Facebook has nowadays is they have 1-day click, okay? 1-day click. They have 1-day click or view. They have 7-day click. And then they also lastly have 7-day click or 1-day view, okay? These are the options we're looking at. Now, let me explain what these are. So when we're first looking at 1-day click, it's very simple. If someone clicks on our ad within 1 day, if they buy, the conversion will be attributed to that ad set. 1-day click or view, very similarly. Obviously, we just went over 1-day click. 1-day view means that if they just viewed our ad and they ended up buying within that same day, the sale gets attributed to that specific ad set, right? Next one, you guys can kind of see where this is going. 7-day click. If someone clicked on our ad and bought within 7 days of clicking on the ad, that sale will be attributed to that ad set. And last but not least, if they clicked on the ad within 7 days, or they saw the ad and bought basically the same day, that sale gets attributed to that ad set. Now that we understand what delayed attribution, what conversion windows are, we can utilize this with our ads. If we're selling a low ticket product for $9, $9.99 we'll say, what do we want? We're going to want to pick ideally probably this one or this one because we don't care that much about someone coming in over here. Now, on the other hand, if we're selling a more expensive product, anywhere from I'd say $30 all the way to $99, right? we're going to want to pick ideally the bottom one. I would probably honestly even avoid this one because there's no point picking it. We're just going to want to pick the bottom one, which is again the default one that Facebook picks. So knowing this, right, what we understand now is we want to aggressively track our attribution. We want to aggressively track what's going on with our ad sets. Now, jumping back into the ads manager here, I want to show you guys what the hell is going on. So you can see on the day we launched this ad set, August 10th, right? It spent $7 and it just doesn't look that healthy. It doesn't look that good. 7 clicks, it's whatever, no add to carts. It could be a fluke. And most people, when they're in the testing phase, they're going to end up killing this ad set. Now, let me explain why this is incorrect. If we go to the next day, right, we can see it got a sale instantly, okay? Now, again, this could have happened later on, but the point is I'm just explaining why we also shouldn't kill so frequently and so quickly just because we see 1 day worth of data. Remember what I said, more data equals better. So with $6 spent, you can see, okay, now we got 11 clicks, much more healthier, 5 add to carts, it's $1 pretty much per add to cart, and we got 1 sale. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Next day, we got $7, kind of doing okay. We didn't even bother with shutting it off. And most people, again, would have been a little bit scared. Well, okay, it didn't get a sale every single day, so therefore it's not a winning ad set, right? Okay, we go to the next day, $5 spent. Again, not doing that good. The next day, again, $8 spent, not doing that good. And when we look at the 10th to the 14th, we can see that, overall it's a 1 ROAS. And even though it's getting out to cards, most people would end up killing this simply based off just looking at the ROAS. But I understand that, okay, well, first things first, our frequency here is 1. We haven't hit people with the same ad enough times. Secondly, I understand that with the amount of money we've spent, the add to carts we've gotten is very healthy. Chances are people are going to come back and buy at some point in time. Whether it's abandoned checkout sequences, SMS marketing, people will likely come back and purchase. And guess what happens? Lo and behold, on the 15th, we spent $8 and brought back 80 at 10 ROAS. So now if we check from 1 ROAS, we're looking at a 3 ROAS for the week. We've stabilized everything simply by waiting. So as this trend continues, I can keep going through the day. 16, you can see, $21 to make back $300. So that's obviously a 13 ROAS. Phenomenal. We raised the budget. So I can continue kind of on this trend, explaining how we scale the rest of the ad account. I can show like the hundreds of other assets we have here. But the point is, we're aggressively trying to aggregate and track all this data, all the conversion windows. So how do we do this? We can do this utilizing Facebook's report feature. You can create a custom report, and I would recommend you do this every week. Just understand your numbers. In fact, if you're scaling at a very high scale, I'd recommend doing this every single day. So that is how we track delayed attribution. That's what it is in the first place. We're looking at different days of the week, right? Just because someone is hit with an ad here doesn't mean they're not going to buy if the ads got 0 sales that day. If the other metrics are good, that's a check mark, by the way. If the other metrics are good, we can wait a couple of days, lose a bit of money in the hopes the ad set will work based off the other metrics such as CPATC. I can get into PSM later, but the point is this is a very important metric that we need to understand and truly diagnose before we start scaling through the moon. Now, here's the thing as well. We have to understand we can use this in reverse as well. We don't have to look at the data backwards. We can look at it in the future. If we run the math, let's say, and we figure out that our CPP is $10, right? And we know within 7 days, like day 1, right? I'm going to actually write this out so it's more visual. If we know on day 1, right, D1, our CPA is $10, right? But we know by day 7, it's going to end up dropping by 30% to $7, okay? This is day 7. What do we realize here? We know within 7 days, we're going to be hyper profitable. That's a 30 percentile decrease. Therefore, we can attribute it back here. Let's say we have a second ad set over here, but the CPA is $14.29. Guess what? A 30% drop by the end of those 7 days will be $10. And if that's our target CPA, guess what? Voila. So now we reverse engineer. Now we know our new target break-even CPP or target CPP in general is actually $14, even though we're aiming for 10. Because if we're aiming for 10, it's going to drop to 7. If we're aiming for 14, it's going to drop to our desired CPA. So that's how we kind of run a very advanced calculation equation to figure this out. So there's a lot of mathematics, but the point is I wanted to kind of just explain why this is important and why we shouldn't just focus on ROAS. So with that out of the way, quick short video on basically break-even CPPs, CPATC, and obviously, of course, we're looking at conversion windows and delayed attribution. With that out of the way, I'm heading off for the night. Peace.
You wouldn't have made it to the next 20 seconds there alive.
I guess we'll never know now, will we?
You told Dr. Frank if I rolled a sword, wipe out his whole cell.
For starters.